Welcome to Friday. It's March 3rd, 2023, your day weather podcast being brought to you by Cowboy State Daily, also being brought to you by WYDOT. Well, more mountain snow coming. The snowpack continues to grow across the Intermountain West. If you're a skier, a snowmobiler, backcountry person, lots more fresh snow coming. There's been a lot of fresh snow on those mountains in many areas this week. More coming. Just remember that avalanche danger. We're also going to see some snow showers today come over the divide onto the plains. It's going to come in patches. It's not going to get everybody. Okay, so there's going to be some of you that see snow showers in the plains, some of you that will not. There will be a patch of snow showers along Interstate 90 in northern Wyoming and western South Dakota. Some patches of snow showers, maybe even getting to the eastern plains of Colorado with several inches of more snow for the ski slopes. There's a break in the pattern Saturday, kind of the same pattern we've been in. You get a system, comes through, snows in the mountains, snow showers on the plains, then you get a day or two where there's a break. But by Sunday, another wave comes through. So during the day Sunday, mountain snow returns, snow showers on the plains, and then colder air settles into the region next week with a broad area of low pressure that is best described as keeping us cold and unsettled, and more snow chances coming next week. Not only mountains, but plains as well. So we have a lot of moving parts, lots of little systems, one bigger system, and fair weather in between the systems, but the overall message is still colder than average. Also, I've received a lot of feedback from folks who have said, why has it snowed so much in places like Lander, Riverton, Rawlins, Saratoga, and Casper, but Laramie seems to have missed just about every storm, which is really true, at least significant snow. We're going to talk about why that is. It's a unique topographical situation, while Laramie's missed out on most of the bigger snows. Nice moon ring shot east of Cheyenne. So this is due to high-level clouds, usually altostratus or cirrostratus clouds, likely cirrostratus clouds here. So instead of ice crystals near the ground, where we get these sundogs, the moonshine through high-level clouds will give us those moon rings. And a lot of times, these moon rings indicate a bit of a change in the weather because high-level cloudiness is on the increase. Here's a satellite photo from yesterday. I just wanted to grab this because it was rare. It's been rare lately, as we know, where we have a gap where the sun is out. So we can go and take a grab and take a look at a visible satellite image to see the intense and deep snow cover that you see right here. Now, there are some clouds here, but this is intense and deep snow cover right here. I mean, in the areas we've been talking about, the snow cover is just so impressive. It's almost like a prairie plains glacier out there. And we're going to see that on the satellite photo for the weeks to come. As we take a look at today's weather pattern, the low that caused a lot of severe weather in Texas and Arkansas and the southern areas of the U.S. yesterday is headed up into the Great Lakes. It's going to cause rain, snow, and thunderstorm activity across the Midwest today. High pressure in the eastern Pacific is going to help drive this guy into Washington and Oregon later on. Out ahead of that system, though, you see this little kink? That's a little disturbance, nothing really major, but that little kink is an upper level area of cold, moist air that's going to come over across the mountains today, then onto the plains. So this is the snowfall forecast for today through tomorrow. So you can see there's going to be some areas of snow showers. That's that I-90 situation there. Some snow showers along the Front Range and eastern plains of Colorado, with snow showers up into the mountains of the west as that wave goes through. Then on Sunday, here's another little kink in the flow. That is going to produce another batch of snow. So this is the second round of snow. This is going to be producing more snow in the mountains of Colorado and southern Wyoming, Utah, the Sierra Nevada. Then there's going to be an area of light to moderate snow across northern Wyoming into Montana and along the I-90 corridor again. So there are two small snow events right there. Then as we go forward, we get into Wednesday of next week. We have a very convoluted pattern, and as we've been warning you all week, this pattern is likely subject to change, variability day to day. It's just convoluted. We have just, look at all the highs and the lows and the patches of warm high pressure right next to cold low pressure. So there's a very disorganized stretch of patterns here. But what we do have is a broad trough that's going to want to break off from the main low off the coast of British Columbia, then eastward through the Rockies. And with this will be a chunk of very cold air. So what this is likely going to do towards the middle of next week is produce more snow in the high country, but colder air and some snow will spread out across the plains. So this is the third snow event. Notice it gets out onto the plains. Western South Dakota, Nebraska, eastern Wyoming, Colorado, Kansas. So as that cold air overspreads and Pacific moisture comes in, well, we could have a plains event. I wouldn't call it a classic March storm by any stretch of the imagination, but it looks snowy and it looks cold towards the middle to the end of next week. So as we get through next week, it's going to be cold. Look at these temperatures and look at the snowfall. This is the cumulative snowfall forecast for the next week. So this takes us through next Friday, adding up those 3 snow events I put together. So again, these models tend to over forecast the snow. Just want to show you where the highest probability of snow is going to be over the course of the next 7 days. And look at these temperatures. This is by Thursday of next week. We're looking at very cold March temperatures coming right back on in. So let's talk a little bit about what has happened to the Laramie area. Why has Laramie been robbed of the bigger snows this year? Well, there's been a lot of snow not very far from Laramie this year. First of all, Weather 101. These are critical things to remember. When air rises, you decrease the temperature, you increase the humidity, it enhances the precipitation process. Precipitation process means the formation of snow or the formation of rain, what it takes in the atmosphere to make rain or snow. When the air is rising, everything is working. When air goes up, things are looking good for precipitation. Conversely, when you have descending air, you have increasing temperature, which decreases humidity. We call that a Chinook. And the precipitation process is stymied. This is why the terrain impacts are so critical in the Intermountain West. Depending on what side of a mountain or a ridge feature you're on, really can depend on whether or not you get a lot of snow, a little snow, or no snow. Because air, when it's forced up, aids the precipitation process. When air descends, you have a situation where the precipitation process just can't get going. So when the prevailing winds are going up a mountain slope, you're going to get snow enhanced by that green. Then, as you go on the other side of the mountain, you get a downsloping, red, increasing humidity, decreasing humidity, increasing temperature. You just basically lose your precipitation process. So when it comes to places like Laramie, where you have the Snowy Range Mountains to the west, the Laramie Range Mountains to the east, the mountains here of northern Colorado, Sheep Mountain here. If you were to just superimpose when these storms come in, what the prevailing wind direction is, well, as you get these moist storms coming off the coast of California, and this has really been the case this winter, a lot of moisture from those California storms comes in from the west-southwest. So these storms are coming in from a west-southwest direction, which is going to favor places like Rawlins and Saratoga and Encampment, especially Rawlins, as they have had an incredibly snowy winter. But also, this is going to really enhance the snowfall in the Snowy Range and also to the west, the Sierra Madres. But what ends up happening is that the moisture comes over the mountains, then starts to downslope. Now, those lighter shaded green arrows mean you're still going to get snow kind of coming off the mountain ridges into places like Centennial, the Centennial Valley, and places closer to the mountains. But as you get further away, well, the air dries out, and you're getting a Chinook or a downsloping impact. Let me back up there real quick. And what ends up happening is that the prevailing winds for most of the winter with these storms have had these storms come up from the southwest. So what ends up happening, you get a snow hole. Basically, we call this the Laramie snow hole, where the downsloping winds just mitigate this development of snow. So Centennial can get a lot of snow. The mountains can get a lot of snow. Rawlins and the Upper Platte Valley can get a lot of snow, but Laramie doesn't. Same thing happens for Cheyenne. That southwest wind is a downsloping wind on the other side of the Laramie Range Mountains. Now, one thing, and this is what makes the snowfall forecasting for Laramie a real headache for a weather forecaster, is that, well, if Arctic air gets pushed into the Laramie Valley before the southwest winds take over, where you get the Arctic air, that's that blue oval, well, that is like forming a false mountain over Laramie, and that air has to rise up and over that cold dome, and we call that overrunning. And several times this winter, it looked like the Arctic air was going to come into Laramie, then the moisture was going to come over it, and Laramie would get a decent snowfall. But the timing has been off. The Arctic air has been arriving too late to really negate that downsloping wind. Now, that's a southwest prevailing wind. When an east-northeast wind develops, well, it's the Laramie Range mountains that then cause the problems. And then you have winds coming downhill, sinking again. So what ends up happening, the summit and points east are in upslope, but Laramie's downslope. So the prevailing pattern this winter has been these southwest storms coming up out of the southwest United States, or these systems that come in from the northeast. And again, that puts Laramie into the snow hole. But these situations is where the east side of Laramie will get more snow than in town and west of Laramie. And then what happens is, as though that air comes into the other side of the valley, well, that's an upslope wind for Centennial, for Albany, for the east side of the Snowy Range. So it's a very, very tricky proposition. That easterly wind, guess what, is a downsloping wind for Saratoga, Encampment, and Rawlins sometimes, and so they end up getting into a snow shadow there. So it all depends on what the wind direction is doing. For Laramie to really get into a big snow event during the course of the winter and into the spring is you need some component that is coming in from the northwest, because that pushes the air up the valley, up on the west side of the Laramie Range Mountains, and that enhances the upslope effect into Laramie. It's a very narrow wind direction for Laramie that is upslope, while the bigger range of wind directions is downslope. So that's why sometimes Laramie just gets into a snow hole while it snows all the way around it. Northwest winds, conversely, will produce a ton of snow in the Snowy Range because the air is getting forced up that mountain range, and that mountain range is oriented just correctly that a northwest wind aloft will make it snow very heavy in the mountains. So there's a quick primer on why Laramie didn't get snow this winter, but as we know, we've got spring coming up and things can change real quick. Have yourself a good weekend.